reasons why they can't make a decision is because it's such a bloated cabinet. And the poorest of the poor are paying for a bloated cabinet. There are deputy ministers here that don't even know what they do. We don't know what they do. And we are paying for it, and it is unacceptable, and they should all hang their heads in shame. It is a disgrace.
This notion, Speaker, of saying we want to assure the markets and all of these things, it is problematic. This house does not belong to the markets. It belongs to the people. We are the representatives of the people. Massive Minister of Finance presenting what he has. And then the parties here can be seen whether they are in support or they are not in support.
You cannot come here and say confidently that the parties in the executive are not agreeing. What is that? We don't have parties in the executive. We've got the executive. The executive must come here and present the budget, and this parliament must decide whether we adopt that budget or not. You are denying the people of South Africa to see what is happening in this government. There is no government. It has collapsed. It has no capacity to present a budget. We must all know that this is unprecedented, and this is not a practice that we want to set for this. It is going to be your legacy, Speaker, that during your tenure, Parliament could not debate and adopt budget.
Now for us, this day is actually quite a shocker. We are really shocked. This is in the past 30 years, to have a day like this is a serious indication of the crisis that this country is facing.
Today does mark a historic day. What I do believe is absolutely important is that what we do in this house is guided by legislation. And therefore the Money Bills and Related Matters Act does compel us as to a particular timeline as to when the budget is going to be tabled, what committees are meant to process it, and how that goes.
It's quite clear that Parliament is becoming a laughing stock. The G.N.U. is becoming a laughing stock. The G.N.U. is anti-poor, the G.N.U. is anti-growth.
Order, can we please listen to the speaker on the podium?
And it's an absolute disgrace.
You are now subjecting the budget of South Africa to party politics when the budget is supposed to be above party politics.
This country has got no leadership. This is what we are facing. We are saying, if we say we have democracy, let democracy come and exercise itself here.
This is serious. It's the first time since the new democracy in 1984 that this has happened.
Because there can't be an agreement to extend this indefinitely, and we trust that you, Speaker, will engage with the leader of government business so that we know to what date this is postponed.
The executive did not know yesterday that there's going to be a budget today and there's no agreement in the so-called G.N.U. Therefore, the executive, the Minister of Finance, must come here, present what he has, and let us as the people, as the representatives of the people, decide for the people.
Rona re le itse motho ha tla tlo presenta mona e qaqile go nthwena ya tshwatleya jwale nthwela ya phitlheganya jwa se ba tsholo ba re bana le lona ba nna le safe ha tle mona tlo bua setšhaba se mo emetse re ke be ra kgona go sebedisa di-resources tsa government for mahala ga tlela mona re na le baeti mona ha tle motho na butlo re kgolo mo phiatlakanya le ena ha e tlatsa ha danke.
They are my friends.
Order.
Don't worry. I want to appeal to you as the Speaker. Firstly, we have raised continuously in this House through the Appropriations Committee about how truncated the time is for the processing of the budget. So any natural delay that emerges as a function of today does in fact mean that Parliament is placed under pressure in not being also being able to consult with the people, for this is where the people are represented.
Speaker, thank you very much. Where was this discussion held? Why was the UDM not part of that discussion?
We are saying to you, you are denying this body an opportunity to be receiving a budget, debate it, accept it, or reject it.
This is a theater of politics. Let the Minister of Finance come and say whatever he wanted to say. We don't want to hear rumors.
As a result, we cannot support a decision that we know absolutely nothing about. Secondly, we should not treat a proposal from the executive in the nature of a budget as fait accompli.
Let the budget be presented here and let Parliament decide that this is the decision that we are taking as Parliament, or whether to accept or not.
So may I ask that it must not be an arbitrary decision as to when this must be tabled. We must be given a firm date so that we can work the timetable consistent with law. Otherwise, the disagreement that took place today will end up in the court of law, and we as Parliament will be held accountable for that.
Do not deny the parties an opportunity of standing and clearly showing where they stand. And also an indefinite postponement is not going to be acceptable. Because if let us wait for an indefinite postponement, what does that mean? And what happens if after that indefinite postponement, they come back again and then let's postpone again? We're going to have more and more postponements. Makaze apa, sizele lonto apa.
That we knew that there were problems even before today. Why wasn't a postponement done sooner than us having to sit in this house?
Indeed, we convened the Chief Whips Forum to consult one another as per the request of the Speaker. The Chief Whips who were in the house at that particular time, they were consulted because they were in the house.
We need to ask you, Speaker, who decides? Because if you are going to allow the Chief Whips to decide for the entire Parliament, it is problematic. Secondly, you cannot allow a case of the incompetence of the executive, even at the incompetence of Parliament.
We hear very disturbing rumors that the VAT would have been increased by 2%. In other words, we hear rumors that this ANC-led government wanted to impoverish our people. We have no sympathy with that. The minister must come here and say what he wanted to say, and then we'll deal with it here.
We were consulted by the executive through the leader of government business. And having applied my mind as the speaker, it was clear that there was no budget that would be tabled. It was for that reason that I consulted all the parties, and I understand Honorable Nkwankwa unfortunately did not make that meeting. Though two of the parties did express their concerns, but unanimously all parties agreed that we postpone.
It is concerning how you are running the House. When there is jeers and noise from this side, you don't call them to order. But from this side, you are very quick to call us to order. So the order is on you, Speaker. Be fair on each and every member of Parliament. Thank you.
We need calm heads, we need level-headedness at this time, given the fact that the executive has decided not to table a budget today, and it could have severe impact on the markets and on the currency, and therefore we need to send a message that we and those parties that are in agreement with the postponement, that this is in order for the Government of National Unity to obtain consensus on some contentious issues, which could also be linked to the VAT increase.
And the second message that should go out to the markets and to the people of South Africa, Madam Speaker, is that the G.N.U does not consist only of one political party.
If you go and look at the markets, dear members, it is already impacted by this budget speech, which is not happening.
Our country is battling with economic growth. When the market sees what's happening with us, it's an absolute joke. And one of the reasons why they can't make a decision is because it's such a bloated cabinet. and the poorest of the poor are paying for a bloated cabinet. There are deputy ministers here that don't even know what they do. We don't know what they do. And we are paying for it, and it is unacceptable, and they should all hang their heads in shame. It is a disgrace.
This notion, Speaker, of saying want to assure the markets and all of these things, it is problematic. This notion, Speaker, of saying want to assure the markets and all of these things, it is problematic. This notion, Speaker, of saying want to assure the markets and all of these things, it is problematic. This house does not belong to the markets. This house does not belong to the markets. This house does not belong to the markets. It belongs to the people. We are the representatives of the people. Masive, Minister of Finance, presenting what he has. And then the parties here can be seen whether they are in support or they are not in support.
It is only final after Parliament has approved it. It is therefore logical, if the minister was going to table a proposal, that the proposal should have been tabled here for Parliament to consider, and if Parliament does not agree with that process, we can arrive at a different outcome altogether.
So, Speaker, let us stick to our own laws. Otherwise, we will be inconsistent with that, and the people of South Africa will hold us accountable for that.
You cannot come here and say confidently that the parties in the executive are not agreeing. What is that? We don't have parties in the executive. We've got the executive. The executive must come here and present the budget, and this parliament must decide whether we adopt that budget or not. You are denying the people of South Africa to see what is happening in this government. There is no government. It has collapsed. It has no capacity to present a budget.
We want to call for a division so that we are clear. The members of parliament here, they must by themselves express their decision on this question of postponement of tabling of the budget. So we want to call for division, want to vote here, because some of the ANC, they are agreeing with us that this thing of 2% is nonsense. And they're saying, let's vote. So please, Speaker, we're calling for division, because the 2%, it's nonsense.